Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to the internet and welcome to my channel. It's me, Odio, and Rings of Power is back. Season 2 is here, and this year, so am I. Want to know what I think of it? Well, you're about to find out. Let's get into it. All right, and I really want to start off by saying Rings of Power Season 2 is here. I've seen Season 1. I wasn't a big fan, and I've now seen half of Season 2. So this is going to be one of my longer videos. I've got it broken down into a few parts because it's long. I mean, there's not a lot that happens, but it is pretty long. So it's better to do it like that. But as you can see, like from my flag with the Eye of Sauron around me, or all my little memorabilia up there with the Lord of the Rings. I even got pins and stuff I wear sometimes. And dun, 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 dun. Yes. I even have Sting. I got that for my birthday. It was a great gift from my wife. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Jackson trilogy. I own them all in 4K disc. I own all the Hobbit too. I know they're not as popular, but I still like to watch them all. They're good times. I just really like the whole Middle-earth land. Lord of the Rings is a lot of fun to me. So I was very excited to watch Season 1. Didn't really like it. Found it kind of boring. But Season 2 has come along, and now we're halfway through. So I'm going to do a mid-season review. It's my first time doing this, but I'm going to be breaking it down to a few different parts because a lot's going on, and I really want to go over each part individually for this video. So I hope you enjoy it. And let's get into what I think of Rings of Power Season 2. So we're going to start off with the orcs. They were just the first ones that show up in the show, so they're the first ones I'm picking to go over. We're going to go through their whole story pretty much to this point. So this opens up with after the events of Season 1, the orcs are all gathered, and Sauron's like, I'm going to be your leader. They're just showing this scene, which doesn't make sense if you've seen all Season 1, but it's actually a flashback. So it shows him trying to lead the orcs, and it seems like Adar is their leader and not Sauron. A bit strange, but so it seems like he's the one kind of giving the nods and like, should I give him the crown or not? He's giving them a speech about how he needs to be their leader, and he's saying he's going to need to be their king to control them all and make sure that good things happen for the orcs going forward. Woohoo! Make orcs great again. So once he says he's going to take power, and Adar's going to put this crown on, this big black crown. So it starts off that he looks like he's going to put it on him, but then, nope, he just stabs Sauron with the actual crown. Sauron falls down, and then literally a bunch of dirty orcs come out with daggers and just stab him. So I don't know why they did the evil Lord Sauron dirty like that, but it was like Caesar, like, A2, Adar, I'm dead too. So then when he dies, like, there's actually a really weird magical explosion that happens, and then he turns into a symbiote. I don't know. He becomes a big pile of goo, I guess. Like I said, he's a symbiote. So he like absorbs like a rat and some other stuff. I really don't know why. He goes on down a mountain. He absorbs a few other people, comes across a wagon, and then he kind of reforms. And he's back to looking like the not Anatar anymore. But it's still Charlie Vickers. Charlie Vickers just puts on a wig, a blonde wig, and he's Anatar. Takes it off. He's Halbrand, right? But either way, they want to hook up with Galadriel. But so he goes, and then from there, you get to see where he gets that medallion. He sees that villager that dies, basically. He gets put on a ship. The ship crashes, and you see that sea monster from Season 1, and you realize this whole thing's been a flashback, and he bangs into Galadriel in the middle of the ocean. Like, okay. Yeah, I mean, after they had killed him as a symbiote, he went back to them and surrendered, and then he got sent off as like an envoy to the elves, because he tells the orcs that Sauron's back. And he's Sauron, so he also comes in like, we get a Moses moment from him here. We've already had Caesar, now we're getting a Moses moment. He's like, let my people go, and I will tell you about Sauron. And so Adar lets his people go, and he just pretty much tells them Sauron's back. Then Adar lets him go and go talk to the elves. Well, I mean, and that's kind of where Sauron goes. We'll come back to him after. But for the rest of the orc story, you get to see them in their homes and things like that. It's really, really different from like the books or the Peter Jackson movies. They're just seen then as basically a force for change, a force of evil. They're just there to kill men. They're not there to take prisoners or steal your lands or money. They're there to kill men. And they're shown to be like pretty evil. They're like, cracking each other's skulls. It almost looks like they get hatched. And in the original books, yeah, it just says they're a perverted and corrupted force of evil. But anyway, in this, Adar's kind of walking around, and the orcs have like families. You see this guy like, we don't want to go to war. We're safe here. He's got like a wife and a kid. It's just weird. I don't even know why they're like trying to humanize or make us sympathize with them. They should just be a force for evil change, so that when you see them coming, you feared them in Lord of the Rings. When you looked out in Two Towers and you seen just a sea of orcs that were just coming to kill everyone in Rohan. You're like, oh my goodness, it builds tension. This is an unknown enemy. You can't reason with them. You know what I mean? It's scary. It's frightening. And these orcs, they don't feel like that at all. It just feels like a bunch of regular people that don't want to go off to war, and if Adar can help them or whatever, they don't want to join Sauron. So, I mean, it's a different take. They're still pretty cool, but not as menacing as before. But maybe that's just me personally. I never saw orcs as valuing individual life. Like, they would send like 1,000 people, and if they killed the 20 people they're supposed to get, and 100,000 or all 1,000 of theirs died, fine, as long as they got the goal. Like, you see that in the movies even. They're running, that one guy running with the torch blows himself up when he gets to the door. Like, he's not worried about getting home to his family or nothing like that. And no one else around him seems to care. But anyway, it's a different take. Not really much else happens with them so far this season. So we'll kind of move away from them now. All right, we move on over to the dwarf side of things. And they're in Khazad-dûm. And let me tell you, it looks great. I know the budget was high for this show, and I do see a lot of the money when I'm looking in these mines and things like that. Just some great images, like really cool looking. The dwarves in general, I think, are pretty good. Durin is fighting with his dad after the events of Season 1, and Disa, who's a stone singer, is losing her ability to speak to the stones. All of this is happening because in Season 1, there was a Rube Goldberg machine, and when they set that off and all these things happened, water came down, caused a volcano, which caused Mordor to be formed. So now the dwarves are having trouble speaking to the stone. And Durin has been kind of downgraded. He's working in the mine now, even though he's like a prince. All the other people don't like him. Like, they're kind of making fun of him and stuff. They're blaming him when he's down there. Disa seems to be the only sensible one. She's trying to speak to both Durins, the older and the younger, and saying, you're both too stubborn. Like, you need to just get together and resolve this. Like, you're both being ridiculous. But anyway, they have these sun shafts. And these sun shafts bring in the sunlight so they can grow plants and crops and whatever in the middle of Khazad-dûm. They look pretty cool, actually. You can see some nice images of them and how the sun bounces off them and how it actually reaches all the way down. It was neat. And then they show that once Mordor is, created or whatever like that, it's all I don't know what you would call it, afterquake. All of it seems to just come here now. And all the sun shafts, they all just start getting destroyed one by one. Smash, smash, smash. They're all like breaking down, so they won't be able to make any more crops. Oh no, they'll starve. Another problem that the dwarves just don't need. And then not only the stone singers, they can't speak to the stone anymore. And that's how a lot of these sun shafts were actually created. So I think Disa's like their leader or the most powerful one. So they call her in to see if she can get the stones speaking to them again and get it fixed. And she gives it a hard go. The dwarves sing in The Hobbit too, but in this one she sings like big powerful notes in her voice trying to get the stone to move, and nothing. Actually collapses the rest of it. And the only stone sun shafts that were left, they collapse in too, and Disa can't fix it. So it's not going good for them. They know there's some kind of a blackness, they're saying, that's on the stone, so it's not listening. So her and Durin, they go on back home, and she talks to he's the grandfather of their kids too, and she just says they're both too stubborn. She tries her best. There's not much she can do. These guys they're dwarves. They're like the stone. They're unmoving, unchanging, and unwilling to relent. And like I said, I think they should all have beards. Just throwing that out there, by the way. Disa should have a nice big beard. I think all of them, all the women, everything should have beards in this. But other than that, the costumes are okay. And I do find the mines and the dwarves, they feel like dwarves. They're pretty dwarven. There was that pretty cringe line from Season 1. Give me the meat and give it to me raw, Yeah, but I did like him and Elrond together in Season 1. I hope we get some of that in Season 2. We don't on this far in, but they do actually go to Celebrimbor. He contacts them and says he's going to make some more rings of power for the dwarves. And I know, for all the book readers and everyone out there, yes, the dwarves and the human rings are made way before the elven rings. Sauron doesn't even help Celebrimbor make them in the books, but hey, we're in Rings of Power Season 2. If you've already watched this far, you're not expecting it to be matching up to all the lore, and it doesn't. But like I said, the dwarves are done pretty good. So they go and they get the offer from Celebrimbor that he's going to make the rings, and they think these rings will now cure them in the mines. So Durin goes, brings the news to his father, and his father's getting some other news that, they're not going to last more than a couple months without food down there. They need the sun shafts back. They need to fix the problem. So he definitely considers it, and it looks like they're going to get their rings made there too. And it kind of brings the two Durins back together to end it off. And that's pretty much where their story ends off halfway through. Overall, I think the dwarves are done pretty good. The mines look good. Disa's cool. Durin's cool. The guy that plays his dad is cool. Everyone there is pretty good. Overall, I enjoyed their scenes. They were some of the better ones that I watch in this show, especially in these first half. But yeah, overall, enjoyed the dwarves. Now, on to some more. All right, now we're going to move on to, in my opinion, some of the best and worst parts. We're going to be doing the humans and the Numenorians. Honestly, though, if you watch the show, even when they're in Numenor, just looks like a bunch of regular random people from a bar or anything. Like, hardly any difference between the humans and Numenorians. There should be, but there isn't. I mean, for this, I'm not even going to do, let's call them Humanorians. All right, so the Humanorians. First, we're going to start off with the Numenorians on their island city here. And Muriel, the queen, who was blinded in season 1, is kind of trying to hide that from her people and also sort of maintain power, keep it away from Al-Pharazôn. None of this is book accurate, by the way. Like, he's the last leader of Numenor. He builds an army so mighty and strong that they intimidate Sauron's army to, like, run from the field and everything. He has a giant eagle symbol. He does lead them to disaster, but also the Numenorians are frightening in the book. They're all, like, gigantically tall, super powerful. They come from this super advanced civilization and society. It kind of made, when I was a kid and I read about him, I thought of Atlantis. I'm not saying that's what he was going for, but that's what I used to think of when I was a kid and I read about the Numenorians. I'm like, oh, they're Atlanteans and they're all, like, super tall. Not in Rings of Power. No, they're not. Muriel's got retaining the power. She was using the Palantir in season 1, so I don't think she's a very good leader. And lying about being blind is just weird. I don't even know. There's a lot of scenes with her and Al-Pharazôn where you're trying to see, like, does he know she's blind? Does he not know she's blind? In the books, the Numenorians could live a long time, but they were jealous that the elves could kind of live forever. So it was just the whole take on it was different. But here she's trying to retain power, and there's some kind of a coronation where she's going to have her queenhood or whatever, because I think she was a queen regent, not the actual queen. So then you get a moment where Al-Pharazôn, they're going to do this ceremony, and she's blind, so she doesn't know what's going on. And a giant eagle comes in and lands, and Al-Pharazôn is standing right in front of it, and they all start chanting his name, like, yeah! And I guess he's going to, like, try to be the leader now? I don't know. That seems to be what's going on. It's not 100% clear. There's a lot of talk about how he's going to try to subterfuge over her and he's going to try to take over. They try to keep it on the down low and stuff, but yeah, it's all right. I mean, I don't mind it too much. I just don't like, for example, Elendil is there. He should be like, Elendil tall should be 7 feet tall. This guy should be a giant, even among the giant Numenorians. Everyone should be really tall. I know you can't get everyone to be that height exactly, but, like, I don't know. You could do something. You can make them look taller, but either way, that's pretty much where that ends off. I don't know where that's going to go, but we're going to cut from them. We're going to go over to Elendil's son, Isildur. Now, he's still over in the Southlands. So Isildur was presumed dead, and he's in a cave in this one. And I gotta say, too, this is pretty cool. I don't mind Isildur. Same thing. He should be a lot taller, like just a much bigger guy, and he should have more gravitas than he does. But I think he's all right. So he's in the cave there, and it's very reminiscent of Aliens. I feel like whoever made this scene thinks of Aliens. So his horse wanders off and finds him in the cave there, and he has to get himself out, and there's these eggs that are hatching, and these giant spiders come out. They also look awesome. They're all creepy, and they come after him. Then they jump on his back, and the horse is there, like, stomping, and he has to have a face-off against, like, the big one, the boss spider. It was cool. I liked it. It was a fun scene. I like seeing Isildur back. He gets on the horse and then rides out of the cave, rides away. it was cool. I liked it. The whole thing was neat. It was a nice sequence. I like aliens, and I thought it was pretty scary. The spiders breaking out of the eggs and coming down for them. Awesome. And like I said, CGI, great. They have a lot of money, and I feel like in a lot of scenes you can see that the CGI is where they spent a big portion of it. So he runs into this girl named Astrid, and she like stabs him in the leg, but then they become friends. I don't really know why. He actually befriends Astrid pretty quickly. He tells her that, oh, his mom actually drowned and it was his fault. He's never told anyone that before and all these other things, and they kind of bond. But she's evil. She's got the mark of Adar on her neck, and he doesn't know that. So they're going around, and then an ambush happens. All of a sudden, these humans are going to like kill them. So when the ambush happens, it almost seems like Astrid knew this is coming. She's like, no, don't go over there. But out of nowhere, Arondir, you see him running. He bursts through a wagon. It's awesome. Arondir, he's the elf from season 1. He was with Bronwyn and her son Theo. Anyway, he burst out. He's got a bow in his hand. He's like shooting guys. They're trying to get him. He's spinning around, stabbing, dodging. It's wicked. I loved it. It was a great way to reintroduce him this season. He hasn't been around for a while yet, so he doesn't come in right at the beginning. But it was great seeing him. He gets a great little fight scene there. I like I said, I loved it. It was one of my favorite scenes in the whole first half of the season. He just bursts out to fight everyone. It's cool. And then he kind of leads them back to the village because Bronwyn, his girlfriend from season 1, is dead. I don't know why she's dead. She didn't die in season 1, but she did get hit with an orc arrow. And he kind of references, well, orc arrows take a toll on human bodies. So she died off camera in between the seasons, right? So they go to her funeral, whatever. I barely remembered that character, but I thought she had a bigger role and they were going to use her more going forward. But either way, she's gone. So Theo is there, and Isildur has lost his horse because those men stole it, and he wants to get it back. And Theo offers to help him out, which he does. And then he gets captured by the bad men. So then they get Arondir. They got to go get him. It's actually, this part I liked it. When Isildur goes and he gets his horse back, he escapes. Theo gets captured by the bad men. He shows him a mark and says, I've done more for him than you ever have. So they capture him and take him off in the woods. So then they go back to town. Isildur gets Arondir and Astrid. And this was my favorite part of the show, probably. They go on like a little adventure, going off to find Isildur. They're going on the map. They're going through different woods. They now hold her prisoner because they know she's evil. They run into this bog at one point, and one of them kind of gets sucked in, and then the other one jumps in, tries to save him, and then they're both stuck in the water. Astrid could escape, but she goes and gets a log and tries to save them. They burst out. There's this giant muck monster. I loved it. I love seeing all the little creatures. They have a nice little fight scene with that, and it was cool. And like I said, she could have left, but she didn't. And then Arondir kind of leaves the key, so they'll let her out going forward. And then their adventure continues on. And like I said, these characters, at least here, I feel like they're doing something. They're going somewhere. They're going to get Theo. He's lost. I know what's happening here. It's very easy to follow. But then as they're going on the way, they finally do catch up to where Theo is. And definitely my favorite part of the whole first half of the season. The Ents. There's an Ent wife and an Ent is so cool. Like she's got like all pink flowers and stuff coming off, like blooming. I think they were supposed to be flower blooming ones in the book. It's been a while since I've read that particular part. But yeah, that's actually where they find Theo. And they're like, oh, what's this sword for? Chopping trees? He's like, no, for chopping orcs. And they find out an orc army has been moving through and cutting down. That's why the Ents were defensive. But really, I can't stress it enough. The Ents looked great. Again, they do have a lot of money, and I'm sure a lot of it was put into the CGI, but they do look good. I really liked seeing them on the screen. I liked them in Lord of the Rings trilogy, Peter Jackson, but, they're pretty old, and, it's okay. But they look better here. I'm not saying they're better, like, the dialogue in a lot of the show is just it's not better anywhere across the board, the trilogy, but at least the CGI was good. They were interesting to see. They were a lot of fun, and they're the ones that had Theo. They let him go. All around, cool. And that's kind of where their action ends. All right, and now we're on to the elves. We're starting to get into the stuff that I did not like about the show. I did not like the girl that played Morfydd Clark. Did not like her in season 1 playing Galadriel. Galadriel is 6'4" and a powerful magic user. This girl is way too small, and she's always got a sword and armor on. Commander, leader of the Northern armies. It's so weird. And where's your husband and daughter? Where is Celeborn and Celebrian? And she's going to marry Elrond. And I mean, anyway, season 2 opens up with her and Elrond riding horses because he's got the rings now. And she's chasing him, doesn't want him to take the rings to the elves. Anyway, there's a whole thing where he goes up to Gil-galad and says, he thinks the rings are evil. And she's trying to get the rings back for some reason. And Gil-galad's like, no, we're going to use these rings. It's fine. We don't care that, someone evil was part of it. And then finally, Galadriel admits that it was Sauron that she was almost hooking up with and cheating on her husband with, or whatever's going on there. People keep shipping them, but this is a married woman. She's a mother with a daughter. She shouldn't be out gallivanting around like this. Not at all. And also, she should be 6'4", and a sword is a joke to Galadriel. Like, if you even seen her in The Hobbit, there's even a one scene where she just walks up to an orc, just... Galadriel is so beyond, like, needing a weapon like this. It's like... But either way, here we are. And once she admits that actually it was Sauron that had basically seduced her, Gil-galad still wants the ring, so, Elrond does the fugitive, jumps off jumps off the side of the mountain and just jumps into a waterfall to escape them. And he's going to basically bring the rings to Círdan, like the oldest elf or whatever. I think that's how you pronounce his name. So he runs away from them. And then even though Gil-galad finds out Galadriel had been hanging out with Sauron, he doesn't send her away or throw her in jail or whatever. They're just like, fine, like, oh yeah, that's what happened. Cool, we'll deal with that. You've just, brought back one of the most evil people of all time. So then Elrond eventually gets to Círdan. He brings him the rings because he's the oldest elf. And another complaint. These elves should look timeless. They're not supposed to age. They live forever. He looks old, and I do understand that is the one guy that Tolkien did say looked old, but I mean, Celebrimbor looks like a grandma. Gil-galad looks like he's having a midlife crisis. Elrond looks fine, I guess. He doesn't look like Hugo Weaving, but I mean, that's just bad luck having to come after him. Anyway, once Elrond gets there, he gives him the 3 rings, and Círdan agrees with him. He goes to take the rings away in the water, because he's like the shipwright master. And then Galadriel, Gil-galad catch up. They try to get the rings from Elrond, but he doesn't have them. And then when Círdan goes to throw them into the ocean, he stumbles and sees the rings, and they make him change his mind. Because the sea had bumped him, and the sea is always right, so he must keep these rings. And he does. Comes back to shore with them, and it's like, yeah, we're going to keep these rings. Goes to bring them to Gil-galad. One of them just falls down, so it falls by Galadriel, so she picks it up and takes it. Totally fine. Círdan has one and Gil-galad. That part makes sense. I'm pretty sure Círdan gives the one that he has to Gandalf later on when he actually gets there in the Third Age. I'm pretty sure I remember that being the case. But yeah, then they need to go tell Celebrimbor in Eregion, and I don't know why they're all rolling their R's like Mordor, Eregion, Athorian. It's ridiculous. It's just so silly. They should just stop doing that. But anyway, they're going to put together a squad to go tell Celebrimbor, the smith, that, Halbrand was actually Sauron. And, to make sure not to work with him or whatever like that. And they did get a message that he wasn't supposed to treat with him anymore. But they're going to need to send a squad. Galadriel wants to lead the squad. Like, so random. Like, you just admitted you were hanging out with Sauron and you brought him here and stuff. Like, now you want to just lead teams? They won't let her. Elrond has to lead, but of course he takes her with him. And they have a little fun trip. When they're going to meet Celebrimbor, they find the corpses of the people that were supposed to bring the messages. And out of nowhere, Barrow Wights show up. Now, I just want to say, they shouldn't be there for 1,000 years. So... whatever to that. But they're there, and they look cool. The CGI, again, looks great. This fight scene is fun. You get some action. Glad everybody swinging their swords, kicking some butt. They're chopping off heads and stuff, but it doesn't stop the Barrow Wights. It's great. I really liked it. It was a really cool, you get a nice little fight scene there. And they continue on through the woods. And then eventually they run into some orcs. The orcs don't even see them, but still manage to hit one of them with an arrow. Galadriel heals it with her new Ring of Power, because... I guess it can do that too. It also brings back life. Like when they put the rings on, when Gil-galad puts the ring on his finger, all of the Silmaril and Mithril stuff just fades away. And when she puts her ring on, she gets apparently the power to heal and stuff as well. And then they realize the orcs, they don't see them, but they're going to find them. They're coming to look for them. So, out of nowhere, Galadriel's like, okay, you guys, Elrond, keep going. I will face the orcs. And I kid you not, she just rides out with her sword and just starts fighting an army of orcs. It's a bit silly. Like I don't know, it's all right, I guess. The action's pretty cool, but it's just one. They don't shoot their bows. They're all like standing back. They don't come at her all. I don't know. I didn't really like that scene, and she ends up losing anyway and getting captured by Adar. So that's kind of where her part ends up before we head over to Celebrimbor. I would just really like to see Galadriel, 6'4", magic user, super powered, wise, with the light in her eyes, these people are supposed to look ethereal, timeless, not just like a bunch of regular humans. She should be like I thought Cate Blanchett did a great job with it, right? And they do a good job with the light in her eyes and things like that. She just doesn't really compare. And at one point, like I said, Gil-galad puts the ring on and it seems to heal them. None of this makes any sense. The Silmarils do not create Mithril. That Mithril is just like an armor. They don't need Silmaril to cure whatever the dying of the light or whatever. None of this is in the book. There's only 3 Silmarils. None of them are in a tree. I don't really know what's going on with all that, but whatever. You know, we're past that. We're in season 2, so I'm just complaining because I didn't make videos back then. But you know, just. It doesn't make sense to the book, but in the story, whatever, seems to work. And then we cut over to Celebrimbor. Remember I said we're going to get back to where Sauron was. Well, this is where Sauron is. He shows up to Celebrimbor's door, tries to get in. Celebrimbor won't let him in because he says he's not supposed to treat with him anymore. But he doesn't know he's Sauron, and Sauron obviously has killed the messengers that were going to get brought to him. So he's in Eregion, and eventually Celebrimbor comes out to talk to him, and he just says, like, well, you must know about the rings in Galadriel. Like, did they work? Was everyone healed? And Celebrimbor's like, no, I don't know. Tell me more. And he kind of, again, he's the great deceiver, right? So he gets himself back into Celebrimbor's good graces. And then he tells him that he's actually not Halbrand, that he's something else. He's Anatar, like the bringer of gifts. And it's the same thing. It's just Charlie Vickers putting on a blonde wig, but he comes back out almost like a Christ moment with the sun behind him and everything like that. We've already had a Caesar moment as well with him. We've had a Moses moment. Why not just go for everything? And they're gonna make new rings for the dwarves and for the humans so that they can help everybody. And that's when they call Durin up to get the rings made for them. And they actually question who this Anatar guy is, but all he says is, I'm a friend, you know, so nobody really knows he's actually the Dark One. But yeah, overall, I really don't like Celebrimbor either. Like, he looks old, like someone called him Grandma Brimbor. Same thing, he should look time. He's supposed to be like a master smith. I actually feel like even in the games aren't accurate, but even those games like the War for Middle-earth and stuff like that I felt like looked cooler as Celebrimbor than this. And he should have, like, I don't know, he should just be like a manly smith type guy. He had to be taught about alloys and stuff in season 1 to make the rings. It doesn't make any sense. He made the three rings without any help. It was the humans and dwarves more that Sauron did it with. But either way, yeah, I felt like he should have been a little bit smarter here. But yeah, that's pretty much where the elves end off so far. The Hobbits. I gotta say, when I first heard the Hobbits were going to be in this, I was pretty excited. You know, hobbits, good food, a warm hearth, and all the comforts of home, and maybe a doily. That's what I think of when I think of hobbits. There are 3. The fallow hides are the more adventurous type of hobbit. That's kind of what Bilbo and everybody is in the Third Age. But there's 2 other ones. There's the Harfoots, which is what we get in this. They're more nomadic, and they were the most numerous. And the Stores. They like the water, rivers, swimming, and boating, and stuff like that. Pretty sure in my mind, I used to always think that's what Gollum was, one of the river folk before he became Gollum, right? But either way, in this, we're following Harfoots from season 1, Nori and her friend Poppy. I'll get to that in a second. But I gotta say, whoever writes the show, they really don't like hobbits. These are dirty, filthy little goblin hobbits. They have like nuts and stuff in their hair. In season 1, they're like, if you walk too slow, take their wheels and leave them to die. They'll slow the caravan down. It's like awful. They don't live in hobbit holes. They're not very nice. They're not friendly at all. They don't trust anyone. They're afraid of big people. I don't know. I really didn't like the portrayal of them at all. So Nori's with the stranger who is not Gandalf, a wizard from season 1. He uses a lot of lines from Gandalf. I'm not gonna lie. In season 1, when I first saw him, I assumed it was gonna be like Palindor or one of the Blue Wizards, Alatar or something, but I don't know. It seems like they're really pushing it to be Gandalf. Like I said, he has a lot of his lines, like the follow your nose and everything. So they're following, she's gone with him, and he's looking for some stars in his dream. They end up getting followed at one point, almost like Gollum, and it ends up being Poppy, Nori's friend, another dirty Harfoot hobbit. And they're literally eating bugs. They're sitting and eating bugs. Like, what? I don't know, it's so gross. Like, they like taters, potatoes. They wouldn't be eating bugs, I wouldn't think. But anyway, that's what these Harfoots are doing. That's how they roll. Yeah, they have weird sayings like, nobody goes off trail and nobody walks alone. And then they have this walking song, which they're going to use to try to find out where not Gandalf wants to go. So they're kind of traveling along and they get some water and they're being chased by these faceless or monster, I don't know what they are, to be fair, just bad guys. They're being sent from a wizard from Rune. What? I don't know. And the Feminem or whatever characters from season 1 there, the Achilles and the Nomad, whatever. Remember those 3 like girls that, or whatever they were that got destroyed by not Gandalf? Anyway, he's there with them. He sends these people out. They say they've got some kind of weird disease. I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, they come and they're trying to catch the Harfoots and they're trying to catch not Gandalf. He pretty much dies because of no water, because they're actually walking through this desert to find where the stars go. Anyway, the Harfoots, they go ahead and they get some water going from a pump. It makes a bunch of noise. Reminds me of, what is it, Pippin from when he drops the armor down? Son of a took, throw yourself in next time. Well, it seemed like when Poppy took the water out and dumped the bucket, it set off some kind of thing which started dinging like a bell. Anyway, the bad guys show up. Not Gandalf drinks some water, wakes up, and literally causes a tornado sandstorm. And anyway, Nori and Poppy get sucked into the sandstorm and fly away. I was like, woohoo, yes, don't come back. And then they're just gone, and then he's standing there. I don't know where they are. And he finds a staff. Oh, and I forgot to mention that. Poppy actually calls it like it's a Gand. She calls the staff a Gand. So I'm like, oh, half of Gandalf maybe? I don't know. Again, just references, but they don't necessarily say that it's Gandalf. So then they're just gone to wherever. But we pick up for them in a couple of minutes, and they've met another hobbit. His name is Nobody. And he's in the middle of the desert. So they follow him. And of course, desert and dryness, it's obviously the stores. The water-loving hobbits. That's where they'd be, in the desert. So anyway, they get taken in there, and these hobbits are mean too. They like take them prisoner. They say they're gonna banish them the next day. Like they don't let them talk. I don't know. They're not very nice. They don't seem like they're very friendly hobbits. So when Nori and Poppy are all tied up with this guy whose name is Nobody, but he has another name, they get tied up by the Gund or the Gund, but don't call her that. So when they're trapped there, they're saying like they were singing the walking song and their old leader, Sadak or whatever. And she's like, oh, how do you know that name? Then you go and you get this big history. And apparently that whole thing with them traveling in the walking song, that's the ancestors of these stores. And that's where Sadak came from, who I think he died at the end of season 1. But that's why the Harfoots are always walking. And the stores asked, oh, did you ever reach the promised, whatever place, the promised land? Another Moses River. But anyway, did you reach the promised land? And they're like, no, I don't think we ever did. We're still wandering. Anyway, so it looks like that's where they actually came from originally or whatever. So great. Anyway, they stop there. But yeah, I don't like the hobbits. I don't like their outfits. I really don't like their attitudes at all. They seem to be mean and like grubby, like I said, eating bugs, nuts in there. They're just, I don't know. They don't feel very hobbity. But hey, it's what it is, right? These are technically they're Harfoots and stores, so they would look different than the Fallowhides from Lord of the Rings in the Third Age, but whatever. I'm glad that they don't have a huge part in this. I'd be happy. I wouldn't even care if they all got cut out completely. And now for the last part, the Astari, or not Gandalf, whatever we're going to call this stranger guy. So yeah, in this season, he starts off, he's left the Harfoots, he's gone with Nori, and he's daydreaming a lot about these stars that he's trying to find. I mean, you can see stars everywhere, is one of the quotes from the show. We don't know his name. They have a lot of weird conversations about his name. The dialogue is really dry, but overall, I mean, I don't even care, really. So they're traveling, and they're trying to guess his name. They guess a whole bunch of different names, and they're going through the desert, and then Poppy catches up with them like I said earlier. So then he ends up carrying them through the desert. He ends up pretty much dying. They bring him back. He casts that spell, and then the hobbits are gone. So after that, you get to actually see why those people are coming after him. You see this evil wizard in Western Rune or whatever. Now this, I will say, in season 1, I thought he was going to be Palando or Alatar. Because those Astari, we know they were there before Gandalf and them, and we know they were here in this area. So it also makes sense that it'd be 2 of them and they'd be there. We know that Alatar came first and Palando after, so that would kind of make sense with this. But I mean, I don't know where they're going with it. This is my little theory, but that's what I really thought. And to me, it seemed like the way they're wording it, he's like, oh, we don't know if the Astari has his full powers. So yeah, at the end of the day, I don't know. It could be Alatar is the evil wizard in Western Rune. There's no real evil wizard in the Lord of the Rings books or Silmarillion that I remember, but I mean, maybe I missed that whole part. But he's the one who is sending off those acolytes and things to attack him, and those people with the melted faces or whatever it is. But yeah, like I said, I originally thought it would be Palando. Now that I see a second one, Palando and Alatar, it makes sense. You know what I mean? And their robes are kind of different, but Yeah, so he's the evil one who's sending people off. So I don't know where they're going with that. I don't know if we're going to have some kind of confrontation. I think so. I think they want to redo, that scene where Gandalf and Saruman kind of fight in the tower. Also, the guy does sound like Saruman, the way that he kind of speaks and things like that. And the other guy kind of sounds like Gandalf. So maybe they want to do kind of a rematch and they just won't name any of them. Just we can insert our own thoughts. Who knows? But eventually, not Gandalf goes on and he's trying to get away from these bad people. And after the dust storm, he comes across a random woodsman in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. And then not Gandalf gets sucked in by a tree, and then this guy lets him out. And it turns out once they start talking that this is the place where the stars are. And this character he's just run into, this is Tom Bombadil. Now, the guy playing Tom Bombadil has a completely different accent than everyone else in the show. I don't know what accent it is. He really felt like Hagrid to me. I mean, Hagrid, like Dumbledore stuff, did not feel like Tom Bombadil. When they said it was Tom Bombadil, I was like, what? Shouldn't he have this bright coat and this hat and the boots? And like, shouldn't he be kind of singing and dancing? I don't know if you've ever seen a Muppets Christmas Carol. That big puppet Christmas present. Come in and know me better, man.
Come in and know me better, man.
I always thought that's what Tom would be like. Just a boisterous, huge smile. Just cheer and joy radiating off him. The ring does nothing for him. He's seen it all. But yeah, I mean, this is their representation of him. It's all right. He says he's been there since the beginning. He's obviously powerful. And he says that not Gandalf is a big key to defeating the evil that's going to be coming in the world. So again, leading to it maybe being Gandalf, but I don't know. But yeah, Tom Bombadil's here. Like I said, they don't bring him in the Peter Jackson trilogy, although he should be in the first movie. There's a bunch of things they have to change for that, but they don't bring him in because I guess it would be too hard to explain who this guy is or what's going on. So, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't the worst representation ever. It just wasn't what I was expecting when I expected Tom Bombadil, the larger-than-life character from the book, to show up. I expected, a boom, like a, whoa, come in and know me better, way! But
come in and know me better, man. Did I already say that?
Yeah, what we got was a guy with a weird accent in the woods. It was all right. And you could kind of see his coat hanging on the wall, but he didn't have it on, like the bright blue or whatever he's supposed to be wearing. He didn't have it on. And we don't really know where this is going, so they sort of just stopped there. And that's pretty much everything that happens for him, too. Well, so I know I went through a lot there, so I appreciate if you stuck with me this far, or if you're just clicking this far deep to see what I've got to say for my final thoughts. But overall, I didn't really like the show. I just find it's a little bit boring. If you take all 4 episodes together, that's longer than Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition. Let me tell you. Watch that. It's a lot more action. They go a lot further there in less time than they do here. Overall, the story's just a bit slow. It's not very lore accurate, but whatever. A lot of people don't know the lore anyway. There's nothing you can really do about that. They're going to do what they're going to do. But it just takes so long for anything to happen in the show. The dialogue is just so wooden, and the delivery is just, no one really has any gravitas. Like Sauron, I kind of like. Charlie Vickers, she does a good job. Galadriel is not really working for me. Gil-galad doesn't work for me. Elrond's okay. And like I said, the dwarves are pretty good, but... And the same thing, the costumes. I mean, for all that money, the CGI looks great, but I don't think a lot of the costumes look great. And overall, I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, I will say this. It's better than season 1, and there were definitely moments in this I enjoyed. I enjoyed the adventure with Arondir and everybody. I did like, even though the Barrow-wights shouldn't be there, I did like that fight. I liked it when the elves were traveling off to warn Celebrimbor. Episode 4 had lots of things I liked. So overall, not a disaster. Better than season 1. I'll give my full review at the end of the season. But overall, when it comes to Rings of Power, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10 on the odometer. There are about 3 or 4 parts that I actually liked in it. The ends were cool. Some of the monsters were cool to see, and the fight scenes and stuff, but overall the dialogue was just boring and brutal, and it's very wooden. I didn't really enjoy any of the performances. I really wasn't looking forward to going to the next episode, and I watched all of them pretty much at once in one binge, and I do not recommend doing that. But yeah, like I said, 4 out of 10 on the odometer. Overall, yeah, not a great show. Not the best way to spend your time. But hey, if you just want more time in Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings, I mean, you got it. I think the sets look pretty good overall. The CGI is good. You're going to get to see Ents. You're going to get to see cool creatures. Just the episodes are too long, and it takes too long for things to happen. And like I said, it's really boring. The dialogue just drags the whole thing down. It's wooden. The deliveries are bad. And if you're really a book purist, you're not going to like this at all. They just do whatever they want and fill in a lot of gaps in the story. And I get it. That's probably something that they have to do, but I just wasn't a big fan of it. But overall, not the worst thing I've seen. And I'll see at the end of the season if it gets better. How does it end? But like I said, I felt like it got better by episode 4. So maybe it'll get a little more entertaining. We'll see. But thanks so much for your time, guys. Really appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, everybody, stay out of trouble.